Good morning, students. Again we continue with the chapter 3. Earlier we had studied about the process of spermatogenesis, where the spermatozoa are formed. Today we will study about the structure of spermatozoa, oogenesis, formation of ova, various stages of oogenesis, development of ova, hormonal control of oogenesis, and differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So we begin with the structure of spermatozoon or a sperm. Here on the screen you can very well see the diagram in the figure 3.6. It is the structure of a sperm. Structure of spermatozoon or the human spermatozoon. It is an elongated, flagellated and motile cell. It is composed of the following regions. First is the head, second is the neck, and the third is the middle piece, and the fourth is the tail. So we begin with the head of the spermatozoon. It is slightly oval and contains a large nucleus which has a highly condensed DNA matter. So you can very well see on the screen the head is slightly oval, contains large nucleus and has highly condensed DNA matter. The nucleus contains haploid number of chromosomes. Over the anterior half of the nucleus is present a cap-like structure called acrosome. I repeat, over the anterior half of the nucleus is present a cap-like structure called acrosome. It is formed of Golgi body. It contains an enzyme called hyaluronidase. I repeat, acrosome contains an enzyme called hyaluronidase, also called as sperm lysin. The hormones help to dissolve the wall of ovum during the process of fertilization and facilitates the entry of spermatozoa into the ovum. Then the neck, just posterior to head, there is small constricted neck. It contains two centrioles, one anterior and one posterior. The anterior centriole is called proximal centriole and the posterior centriole is called distal centriole. It gives rise to the axile filaments of the sperm which posteriorly form a tail. I repeat, it gives rise to the axile filaments of the sperm which posteriorly form a tail. Now the middle piece you can see in the figure again in 3.6. It is a long area and had the thick portion. It provides passage for axile filaments to reach the tail. Many mitochondria are present here. These mitochondria together they are in a spiral form and they form a sheath around the axile filament in the middle piece. This sheath is called nibuncon. I repeat, many mitochondria together in a spiral form a sheath around the axile filament in the middle piece, and this sheath is called nibuncon. It generates energy for the movement of spermatozoa. Posteriorly, the middle piece also contains a ring-like structure called ring centriole or annulus. I repeat, posteriorly it contains a ring-like structure called ring centriole or annulus. Then we move on to the tail. Tail is the posterior part of the sperm. It consists of specific arrangement of microtubules, that is 9 plus 2. You have already learned in your class 11th, which is typical of cilia and flagella. So it gives motility to the sperms. I repeat, tail is the posterior part of the sperm, consists of specific arrangement of microtubules, that is 9 plus 2, which is typical cilia and flagella. It gives motility to the sperms. Therefore, the whole structure of the sperm contains head, neck, middle piece and tail, and the functions of all these I already discussed. Still I can recall that the head piece contains the nucleus having the DNA, as well as its part contains the acrosome. Acrosome contains an enzyme hyaluronidase or the sperm lysins, which help in dissolving the wall of the ovum during the process of fertilization. Then the neck bears the centrioles mainly, and therefore help in the formation of the tail, and the middle piece contains mitochondria which provide ATP, and the tail provides motility to the spermatozoa. This I have already discussed with you, that the human male ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms during a coitus of which for a normal fertility. At least 60% of sperms must have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility, which will be facilitating the process of fertilization. Now we move on to the next topic called as oogenesis. Now by the process of spermatogenesis there is formation of sperm, and by the process of oogenesis there will be formation of egg. Now what is oogenesis, and we'll learn about various stages of the oogenesis. Now the oogenesis is the process of formation of haploid ova in the Graafian follicle of ovary. Graafian follicle is the mature follicle of the ovary. It is a discontinuous process, though it starts during the period of fetal development, yet it's completed only after the onset of the puberty. The process of oogenesis is, I told you just now, it occurs in early embryonical stages when the fetus is about 25 weeks old. I repeat, oogenesis begins early in the embryonic stages when the fetus is about 25 weeks old. A couple of million gamete mother cells called oogonia are formed within each fetal ovary. No more oogonia are formed and added after the birth. I repeat, no more oogonia are formed after the birth of the female child. A baby girl is born with a set of number of primary oocytes. I repeat, a baby girl is born with a set number of primary oocytes. Already in prophase, that is dikinesis stage of the meiotic one in the ovary. Further development of the primary oocyte remains suspended till puberty. I repeat all these again. No more oogonia are formed and added after the birth of the female child. A female is born with a set number of primary oocytes already, which are there in the prophase 1, that is dikinesis stage of the meiotic one in the ovary. Further development of the primary oocyte remains suspended till puberty. Now the various stages of the oogenesis. The first stage is multiplication phase, second is growth phase, and the third is meiotic or maturation phase. Now we move on in the detail of multiplicative phase. What happens during this phase? During this phase, the follicle cells are differentiated from the germinal epithelium of the ovary due to repeated mitosis division. Some of the follicle cells become large and are known as egg cell. I repeat, some of the follicle cells become large and are known as egg mother cells. They again divide by the process of mitosis to increase their number. These are then called as oogonia. The oogonia are diploid and occur in the form of rounded mass of egg nest. Now you can see in the figure given here further, it is showing you the diagrammatic section of the ovary. So here you can see the presence of the blood vessels, primary follicle cells, tertiary follicle cells having antrum, and the mature follicle cell called Graafian follicle cell. So I would like to repeat this. In the ovary, the follicle cells are differentiated from the germinal epithelium. I have already described the structure of ovary earlier, and due to the repeated mitosis division only these cells are formed. Some of the follicle cells become large and are known as egg mother cells. These again divide by the process of mitosis to form oogonia. Therefore, oogonia is a diploid cell, or oogonia are diploid cells, and they occur in the form of rounded mass of egg nest. Oogonia is plural, oogonium is singular. Then we go to the growth phase. What happens during this phase? During this phase, one of the oogonium of the egg nest, the small cells you see on the screen near the blood vessels, they are the egg nest cell. One of the oogonium of the egg nest get differentiated and remaining oogonia change into surrounding nutritive follicular epithelium. The differentiated isolated oogonium increases in its size by obtaining nourishment from the surrounding follicle cells and transforms into diploid primary oocyte. The primary oocyte is characterized by the presence of large number of mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi bodies, and they are surrounded by a thin membrane called as vitelline membrane. I would like to repeat it again. During this phase, one of the oogonium of the egg nest get differentiated and the remaining oogonia change into surrounding nutritive follicular epithelium. The differentiated isolated oogonium increases in its size by taking nourishment or the nutrition from the surrounding follicle cells and get transformed into a diploid cell called as primary oocyte. This primary oocyte contains large number of mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, as well as it is surrounded by a thin membrane called as vitelline membrane, VITELLINE. Then we move on to the maturation phase. During this phase, the diploid primary oocyte undergoes two maturation divisions. The first meiotic division divides the diploid primary oocyte into two haploid cells. I repeat, the first meiotic division divides the diploid primary oocyte into two haploid cells. The larger one is the secondary oocyte and the small one is the polar body. I repeat, the larger one is the secondary oocyte and the smaller one is the polar body. Here you can see on the screen the diagrammatic representation of the spermatogenesis and oogenesis in the figure 3.8. So you have to focus at present on the oogenesis. So I am going to repeat it again. The larger one is the secondary oocyte, product of the first meiotic division, and the smaller one is the polar body. The first polar body does not undergo meiosis II, whereas secondary oocyte proceeds as far as metaphase stage of meiosis II. It then stops advancing any further. It awaits the arrival of the spermatozoa for the completion of the secondary meiotic division. I repeat, it awaits the arrival of the spermatozoa for the completion of the second meiotic division. The entry of the sperms restarts the cell cycle, breaking down M phase promoting factor and turning on the APC. I repeat, it restarts again the cell cycle by breaking down the M phase promoting factor and turning on the APC. APC means anaphase promoting complex. I repeat, turning on the APC, anaphase promoting complex. The secondary oocyte undergoes second meiotic division and forms a large ovum and very small second polar body. I repeat, the secondary oocyte undergoes second meiotic division and forms one large ovum and very small second polar body. The first polar body also divides again by mitosis and forms two more polar bodies. Thus, from one primary oocyte, one large ovum and three polar bodies are formed. I repeat, thus you can see on the screen the one cell primary oocyte. It gives rise to one large ovum and three polar bodies are formed. Here you can see only the formation of two polar bodies. So sometimes it undergoes one of the polar body undergoes a mitotic to give rise to two. So altogether three are formed, but sometimes it doesn't undergo the process of mitosis. So it remains there itself. So there is formation of two polar bodies only. The three polar bodies degenerate as they do not take part in the process of reproduction. So if there are only two formed, these two polar bodies later on degenerate, and since they do not take part in the process of reproduction, only the ovum is left behind because it is only the functional cell. So ovum is left behind and it is the female gamete. So the entry of the spermatozoa promotes the completion of the second meiotic division in the oogenesis. And if it doesn't receive the spermatozoa, then it is not completed. So I repeat, entry of the spermatozoa promotes the completion of the second meiotic division. Now what is the significance of oogenesis? Each primary oocyte undergoes two maturation divisions. So with this I am going to repeat again. The primary oocyte undergoes two maturation divisions, that is meiosis 1 and 2, and produces one ovum and two polar bodies or the three polar bodies with half the number of the chromosomes. The polar bodies contain minute quantity of cytoplasm as they allow the ovum to have sufficient cytoplasm for extra chromosomal inheritance as well as for early development of embryo. I repeat, polar bodies contain minute quantity of cytoplasm and they allow the ovum to have sufficient cytoplasm for extra chromosomal inheritance as well as for early development of embryo. During meiosis 1, crossing over takes place, which provides for new combination of genetic material. I repeat, during meiosis 1, crossing over takes place, which is the exchange of the genetic material and which provides for the formation of the combination of new genetic material. Thus, it brings about variations, and through these only they help in the process of evolution. This way, I have mentioned about the significance of the oogenesis. Now, we will discuss about the development of the ovum. Now, before that, I would like to tell you about something about the ovulation. What is ovulation? Ovulation is the process where matured ovum is released from the ovary. So the egg is released from the Graafian follicle by the process of ovulation, and it's actually the secondary oocyte. I repeat, the egg that is released from the Graafian or the mature follicle during the ovulation is actually the secondary oocyte, which has undergone meiosis 1 only until the metaphase of meiosis 2. The rest meiosis 2 takes place only at the time of fertilization. Point to be noted here. I am repeating, this is actually the secondary oocyte or the egg which is released from the Graafian follicle, and it has only undergone the meiosis 1 until the metaphase of stage of the meiosis 2. The rest meiosis 2 takes place only at the time of fertilization before fusion with the sperm and turns secondary oocyte into an ovum. And I have also mentioned also the metaphase promoting factor. They are broken, and there is turning on of the APC, that is anaphase promoting factor, which help in the completion of the meiotic 2 and which converts secondary oocyte into ovum, which readily fuses with the spermatozoa to form a fertilized egg or zygote. And simultaneously second polar body is also released, which ultimately disintegrates. Now I would like to explain the development of ova in the ovary, that is related with the oogenesis. In the ovary, the primary germ cell from the germinal epithelium divide mitotically to form oogonia. I mentioned earlier. These cells migrate towards the center of the ovary. I repeat, these cells migrate towards the center of the ovary, and some of the cells grow larger and form primary oocytes, while the rest encircle the growing primary oocyte and are called as follicle cells. The primary oocyte is surrounded by a layer of follicle cells or granulosal cells. Therefore, it is called as a primary follicle. I repeat, a primary oocyte is surrounded by a layer of follicle cells or granulosal cells and is called as primary follicle cell. The follicle cells are protective and nutritive in function. A large number of these follicles degenerate during the phase from birth to puberty. Therefore, at the puberty, only about 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicle cells are left in each ovary. I repeat, a large number of these follicle cells degenerate during the phase from birth till the puberty. Therefore, at the puberty age, only about 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicle cells are left in each ovary. As the primary oocyte further grows, follicles or granulosal cells increases in number. I repeat, as the primary oocyte grows, the follicle or granulosal cells increase in number. The primary follicles get surrounded by more layers of granulosa cells and a new theca, and follicular fluid accumulates in small cavities in between the cells, and this structure is called secondary follicle cell. I repeat, the primary follicle cell was surrounded by the granulosal cells, and this primary oocyte further grows into the follicle or more layer of the granulosal cells, and these primary follicle cells therefore get surrounded by many layers of granulosal cells and a layer called as new theca, as well as increase in the follicular fluid in small cavities in between the cells. This structure is called as secondary follicle cells. The secondary follicle cell soon transforms into tertiary follicle cells. As the secondary follicle cell grows further, the small cavities merge together and one large fluid-filled cavity is formed. This large fluid-filled cavity is called antrum. This mature follicle is now called as Graafian follicle cell. I repeat, the secondary follicle cell, which was having more number of granulosal cells, a new theca and follicular fluid, now has transformed into a mature follicle cell or Graafian follicle cell, because these small cavities have transformed into a large fluid-filled cavity. Now this mature follicle cell is about 1 centimeter in diameter and protrudes on the surface of the ovary. The theca layer also get organized into an inner theca as well as outer theca. The inner theca is termed as theca interna and the outer theca is termed as externa. The primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grows and undergoes first meiotic division, forming large secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. I repeat, from the secondary follicle cell, formation of the Graafian follicle cell, which is containing large fluid-filled cavity called as antrum, and the theca is also organized into two theca called as theca interna inner one and the outer theca called as externa. And this primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grows and undergoes the first meiotic division, forming a large secondary oocyte and a small first polar body. It retains the bulk of nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. The tertiary follicle further changes into mature follicle or the Graafian follicle. The secondary oocyte is present on the slender stalk of the cells projecting into the cavity. The whole structure is called as Graafian follicle cell, which projects from the surface of the ovary. Because of its large size, the secondary oocyte forms a new structure called as zona pellucida surrounding it. I repeat, the secondary oocyte forms a new structure called zona, ZONA, zona pellucida surrounding it. At the time of ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released into the follicular fluid, and finally the Graafian follicle ruptures, releasing the ova. So I would like to repeat for you The Graafian follicle cell contains a theca externa, theca interna, a huge space or the large space called as antrum, which is containing a fluid. Actually, it is a fluid cavity. I have already mentioned to you. This fluid is called as liquor folliculi. This fluid is called as liquor folliculi. And a layer, a new structure, or you can say a surrounding structure is formed called as zona pellucida. So, the Graafian follicle cell contains primary oocyte. Graafian follicle cell, actually the primary oocyte only undergoes first meiotic division to form secondary oocyte, and the follicle or the granulosal cells further increase in number. Various small cavities contain follicular fluid secreted by granulosal cells, merge and fluid filled cavity called antrum is formed. So I would like to give the functions of the various layers of the Graafian follicle cells. I already explained you small cavities give rise to form a large fluid filled cavity. So this fluid filled cavity you can see in the figure is antrum. This contains a fluid. The fluid present in it is liquor folliculi, and a stalker there or the secondary oocyte of Graafian follicle is suspended in the fluid filled cavity called antrum by a stalk of cells called cumulus oophorus. I repeat, it is held with a stalk called as cumulus oophorus and is formed by the granulosal cells. CUMULUS, cumulus oophorus, OOPHORUS, cumulus oophorus. It is a stalk which attaches this antrum cavity, fluid filled cavity of the Graafian follicle cell. And the zona pellucida, it is a thick area that surrounds the secondary oocyte, and it is composed of glycoproteins synthesized by both follicle cells as well as oocyte. I repeat, zona pellucida, it is a thick area that surrounds the secondary oocyte cell, and it is composed of glycoproteins which are formed by both follicle cell as well as the oocyte. Then you will also see a structure called as corona radiata, which I can show you in the figure here given in on the next page. It is given on the next page. I would like to show you this figure, that is of the corona radiata. It refers to the radiating layers of the elongated granulosal cells outside the zona pellucida, and they surround the secondary oocyte at the time of ovulation. So at the time of ovulation, the granulosal cells of the ruptured follicle change to form another structure called as corpus luteum. This is structure corpus luteum given here in the diagrammatic section view of the ovary. So I am repeating, granulosal cells of the ruptured follicle cells change to form another structure called as corpus luteum, which is a yellow body, and it releases hormone called as progesterone. Therefore, now I end with the process of the formation of the ovum as well as the polar body by the process of oogenesis. And here you can see in the flow chart the oogonia, which has undergone the mitotic stages to form primary oocyte during the embryonical stages, and these primary oocyte later on after the birth at the age of the puberty undergo the first meiotic division. But you have to remember very well, when is the first meiotic division completed? The first meiotic division is completed before ovulation, means before the release of the ovum from the mature follicle cell, as well as formation of a polar body. So there will be formation of a secondary oocyte and a polar body at the age of the puberty, and this secondary oocyte later on forms ovum and a second polar body. Thank you.